Okay, so I need to add a new hinge to this lid, and I'm deciding whether to add something of my own making or a standard hinge. You'll find out in a second which option I choose. I do have several small bags of brass looking hinges, most likely coated brass rather than solid brass. And my first step here is to just hold them up to the box and look at the proportions of the hinge in comparison to the box and see if any of the hinges I have look like they may suit the style of box I have here. And I don't really like any of these hinges. The proportions are wrong. These are probably too small for the box, but also I don't really want the brass to distract from the box. So I'm thinking I might do something more hidden, maybe a brass pin through the side that won't be visible. And as I hold the brass rod up, an idea occurs to me. Maybe I could try something different, something that I've not seen before, but no doubt somebody out there has already tried it. So I have some of this 3mm brass rod in stock, and I'm going to put a screw thread on. Now, as you can see, the thread on this is very fine, so I'm a little concerned that it may not hold in the wood because it's much finer than a wood screw. So I've clamped a piece of scrap into this small vise, and I'm going to use a 3mm drill bit, or fractionally smaller actually, just to put a pilot hole in there, and then I will add some threads to the wood, and let's see whether this process works. And although it's just out of shot here, it's very surprising that this small piece of brass with very fine threads manages to pick up the entire vise. So I've added threads to both ends of this piece of brass rod, and I'll cut them down, and then I need to add a mechanism for attaching it, because it's not going to be very easy to screw it in by hand when it's going to be hidden. Now this stage is extremely important. It's really important to make sure that the hole on both sides is identical. You want the positioning to be as close to identical as you can, because if it's not, the lid is not going to hinge smoothly. And here I'm using a very small hand drill in order to put the holes in. There's a few reasons for this. The first one is the box is already constructed, so I don't have the access with a standard drill. But the other reason is that this gives me far more control because I'm working at a slower speed, and it's a lot easier to position to get it in vertical. And now I'm happy with the pilot hole. I can use the drill to widen that out to provide a snug but not tight fit on the brass rod. Now I'm placing a small piece of metal inside the lid here just to raise the lid up to be level with the edge of the box. And then using the same hand drill, I'm marking either side of the lid through the holes I've already drilled. And now the lid needs the threads in order to accept the brass rod. And I'm doing this by hand as well, just so that I've got more control. So I'm using a very fine thread on a soft piece of metal, and it's going into end grain. So the chance of this failing is quite high, but as I'm observing it, it's quite obvious it's going to be strong enough for the purposes I need. Now the brass rod needs cutting down to size. I want this to sit inside the box so that it's not protruding and visible on the outside. There'll just be a small hole. And the easiest way I can think of to attach this is to cut a groove in the top and use a flathead screwdriver. And my first test fitting of the brass rods show that the hinged lid will not work. It needs some material taken off the underside of the lid to provide enough room for it to clear the box. And a fairly small chamfer with the plane is enough for this to free up and provide a smooth box lid. So another test fitting of the lid, and it seems to be much improved. It's open and closes smoothly without catching, and yeah, I'm quite happy with the way this worked. So what's the advantage of this system? Well, the box needs finishing now, and with the lid in place, that's not all that difficult, but it does mean it's harder to get to certain places. But with these sort of hinges, I can just unscrew the lid and remove it. And then finishing the box, I'm just going to use some oil finish and possibly some wax after it's dried. Well, this is the final episode in this series, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Yeah, I'll show you the final product in a minute, but please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope to see you on a future project.